Well, my first guest tonight has lost an unbelievably large number of relatives to war in Gaza. In 2009, tragedy struck Dr. Izzeldin Abuleish when an Israeli tank shelled his home, claiming the lives of his 3 daughters and a niece. But the current conflict has also taken the lives of many more of his relatives, and Dr. Abuleish, a trailblazing figure, made history as the first Palestinian doctor to serve in an Israeli hospital. He's a passionate advocate for peace and reconciliation between Israelis and Palestinians, a mission that he encapsulated in his memoir entitled I Shall Not Hate, A Gaza Doctor's Journey on the Path to Peace and Human Dignity. And I feel honoured, actually, to say that Dr. Izzeldin Abuleish joins me now. Doctor, thank you for coming here today.
Thank you so much.
I greatly appreciate it. I know we were just talking before we came on air. You were raised in the Jabalia refugee camp.
I was born, raised and lived in my home still in Jabalia camp.
And a lot of your relatives have already been killed since October the 7th there.
Yes.
In these airstrikes. But also you've told me that right now there are ongoing attacks.
Yes, they are there in Jabalia camp, living, staying there. They are alive now. I don't know after we finish if they will be alive to talk to them or not. But it's important, because I want to tell you, let us talk, a man to a man. Do you have children?
Yes.
So, a father to a father, a human to human. You know, once the apple fell down, we discovered the gravity. So let us today discover the humanity and the truth. Because the truth is important based on evidence. Jesus said, seek the truth, and the truth sets you free. And I hope all to be free today from this meeting, and to be human, and to behave as a human, and to advocate only and just only for humanity.
How many members of your family have been lost since October the 7th?
About 25. October 7th, when I watched it, I found that my sister's house, where my brothers and nieces were there, and this is all the members of the family who were killed.
These are all your members of your family?
Of the family on the 7th. They became piles, their bodies. This is my niece who was killed. This is her body. This my niece who was engineering, graduated. She was found under the rubble. This is my niece. She is a medical doctor. She was supposed to start her specialty. This, my cousin. This is my nephew, who is a physiotherapist, and he was killed. This is my niece's daughter, and that's what we want to see. These people, they have names. They have faces. And that's what is needed. This is my daughter, Bisan, who was killed 16th of January 2009, who said, to meet violence with violence doesn't solve any problem. There is an alternative way. It's not by action and reaction. It's by being a human and behaving and thinking of others. This is Mayar and Aya. Even my niece, she named her daughter Aya after my daughter. Aya was killed also. These daughters, I raised them to be human, to be advocate for human. I sent them to peace camps. And she said to me...
With Israelis?
With the Israelis. And she said to me, I found how similar are we. We are similar, but we need to be equal. We need to be free. We need to appreciate the dignity, the freedom of all. Does the life, I want to ask you, does the life of the Palestinians matter as equal to the Israelis or not?
Yes.
Does the freedom of the Palestinians matter as the freedom of the Israelis?
Yes.
And that's what always I advocated for. I worked at the hospital when I deliver a baby, the newborn baby. The cry of the newborn baby is a cry of hope, cry of life. But now we are crying blood. Our tears are blood. The children that I helped to deliver, they are free. All of them are free. Why not to run a normal, free life? Medicine for me is a human equalizer, stabilizer, socializer, and harmonizer. So we need to live free, with dignity, with equality in this world. And that's the peace. I fully advocate it. Because once we have these means, peace will be a consequence. Violence, that we talk about violence, what is violence? Violence when we violate someone's dignity, life, and human rights. So it's time. And even October 7th proved, because we tried it many times, military means and wars, it's futile. It's a waste of time and lives. It increases bloodshed, animosity, hatred, violence, pain, suffering, and most important is the extremism. The only way is to sit, and I am sure this can't be solved with the military means. It's only by political and diplomatic means, acknowledging the rights of all to live side by side as equal. And that's the only way, without leaving anyone behind.
You talked earlier about growing up in the Jabali refugee camp, which was struck, of course, by airstrikes, devastatingly killing members of your family, as you've just recounted so powerfully. What was life like when you were there as a young person?
My life as a Palestinian refugee, because I was born as a refugee, my parents were refugees. My grandparents were refugees. They were expelled from their homeland to be thrown as a refugee. And being a refugee, what do we mean by a refugee? You are deprived of your dignity. You become moving in this world naked, exposed. But thanks to our parents, they lost everything, but they realized the hope is in their children. We have to be educated, and Palestinian people, they invest everything in the education of their children. They cut from their food that now in Gaza Strip, with the collective punishment, they are deprived of bread, of water, of health, of gas, of a fuel. How the world can watch it and not to take action? How can you tolerate to see your son hungry? He needs milk. What are you going to do? When I see a bleeding patient, I rush to stop the bleeding. When I see a woman who is in labor pain, I rush to help her without discrimination, or to say to her, why are you screaming? Why are you crying? And that's what we need. So as a child, I suffered of rheumatic fever, admitted to the hospital. I wanted to be a medical doctor in order to rescue my family from the misery of life. And that's we as Palestinians, we don't believe in the impossible thing. We have hope in our children. I succeeded to get a scholarship to study medicine in Cairo. Everything in life I planned, I succeeded. From Jabalia camp to Cairo University, to London, to Italy, to Belgium, to Harvard University. Even when I went to Harvard, the only thing which was standing with me was Palestine flag to be raised. I am Palestinian and the proud Palestinian. And that's what I want the world to hear from the Palestinians. Palestinians are people like others, with hopes, with the plans, with the dreams. They love life and they care about others. And that's what we want the world to hear from us, not to hear about us. The only impossible thing I believe in is to return my daughters back to life.
It was 2008, I think, when you lost your wife to cancer. And that was a crushing blow, and you were left to bring up your 8 children on your own.
Yes.
And then within a year, devastatingly, an Israeli tank during that war at the time that was raging at the time with Gaza, an Israeli tank fired on your house, and your 3 daughters and a niece were all killed in the most brutal manner imaginable, blown to pieces by this tank, and you were there.
I was with them.
And there was an extraordinary moment, and I have asked if you're comfortable with us to play a little bit of this, because I remember it at the time. I was at CNN, was just about to join CNN, and I remember hearing this. And it was just so moving, because you had a friend at an Israeli television station, and you had regular dialogue with him during this war, and you would call in and you'd update and so on. And you came on and you spoke to him just after you'd lost your daughters to this strike, and this is a little bit of that conversation.
יש לו 8 ילדים שבמשך כל המלחמה הוא הגן עליהם בבית שלו, בבית לאהיה. אולי הדבר היחיד שאנחנו יכולים לעשות זה לפנות למי שיכול כבר, אולי בצה"ל, בבית שלו. אבו לש, תגיד לי את הבית שלך, איפה אתה נמצא? אולי ישלחו אמבולנסים אליך, אולי יאפשרו להגיע אליך באמבולנסים.
It's one of the most agonizing things I've ever watched on television. And eventually your friend, that presenter, he had to go because he wanted to keep talking to you, and he was so distressed himself he wanted to go off and do it privately, which he did. But an agonizing moment for you, for him, for everybody involved in that. And as a consequence of that, many people in your position may have chosen a path of wanting revenge or retribution in some way, to meet violence with violence, but you went completely a different way, and you ended up taking your family and you ended up in Canada. How did you find the strength to not go down the path of wanting revenge?
It's important what you mentioned, because my wife passed away 16th of September 2008,
Yes.
4:45 p.m. And my daughters were killed 16th of January 2009, 4:45 p.m., 4 months exactly. 2 traumas, tragedies, and what you heard, what I said, Ya Allah, Ya Rab, you know the meaning, Oh God, Oh Lord.
Yes.
At that moment, as what I see now, I lost faith in humanity, because the world was watching what is happening, as we are watching what is happening now. Palestinians are just numbers. They are not numbers. They are human.
Yes.
And that's what I would like each of us who are watching to zoom in, to put himself in the position of the Palestinians.
You know what you did so powerfully, Doctor, was when you showed the pictures of your family.
So, but it's important.
But you put a name to the face.
Yes.
And you made people at home watching this understand
what
these are
helped
real
me,
people.
but it's important, what helped me. I am a person of faith. This is important. My life experience, my profession as a medical doctor. If a patient dies, I don't stay there. I have to move to the next patient to save, but I need to learn why the first patient died and what are the causes, the triggers of the death of that patient.
Well, I'm still with Dr. Izzeldine Abuleish. I'm sure anyone who watched that first part of this interview will have been like me, I think, taken aback by the eloquence that you talk with, the courage that you speak with. It's really palpable. And I'm just so glad you came in to do this with me face to face, so I can really feel it from you, because you're so right. Palestinian lives are as important as Israeli lives. And, you know, here's the question I want to ask you. How do we? Your entire life has been ravaged by this conflict, from when you were a baby to now. And you've lost so many members of your family, and you're losing them as we speak, probably, horrifically, in this camp that you grew up in. It's like this vicious circle that never ends. How do we end it?
Yeah, we need to understand the root causes of the problem. The Palestinian people and the Israeli people. And I described it. We are like conjoined twins. We have no other way than to live together. And when we speak about peace, and the people, they talk about peace, peace is not just a word. Peace is a way of life that we believe in it. And there are, between whom we want peace. Peace is a relationship between me and you. Even peace is a relationship between us and the earth, that we damage the earth with the climate change. And there are certain requirements for peace. We need justice, equality, freedom.
Human rights, right? Equal
yes,
rights.
Equal rights. Then peace will be a consequence of that.
Can peace ever be achieved now if Hamas are in charge in Gaza?
As I mentioned to you, it's about Palestinian people and then Israeli people. It's not about Palestinians and the settlers, Smotrich or Ben Gvir or those settlers. We want peace between the people, and that's what is needed. Palestinians and Israelis, we are created.
But that has to, in the end, that has to be a political solution.
It's the only way.
But do you think on either side there is the leadership there that can possibly forge peace?
Believe me, even if there is no, we need the international community to bring them, and we have the platform, we have the international resolutions, we have the human rights resolutions, because ending the conflict, all of the world will benefit from it. You see the consequences of what is happening now. The consequences are spreading everywhere in the world. You see it in UK, polarization, the marshes, everything. So when we solve the conflict there, all of the world will benefit from it.
Why do you think it's not been solved yet? I mean, I look at Northern Ireland, for example, which was 3 decades or more of violence, but eventually it got resolved. But it seems to be...
You know why?
Why?
I met with Martin McGuinness before, and he said to me, we were confronting each other. Once we started to move side by side as equal, we put an end to that. And that's what we need, the international community, the world, that we can, Palestinians and Israelis, to move side by side as equal with dignity and respect of the human rights, not as fighters, because a small room can't accommodate 2 fighters, but it can accommodate hundreds of friends. And that's the only way. And we are so close to each other. The commonalities between Palestinians and Israelis more than anyone else. So we need to use it, but based, as I said, on equality, respect of the human rights, dignity of the Palestinians is equal to the dignity of the Israelis. The freedom of the Palestinians, even I go far beyond that. The Israelis' freedom, safety, security, future, and independence is linked and dependent on the Palestinians. We are one, we are conjoined twins, we can't separate it. So it's time to understand also military means and power will never put an end to this.
Do you, obviously you dream of this, but do you think it's a realistic dream that in your lifetime you can have a 2-state solution with Israel and Palestine, both identifying each other as states and people living with equal human rights? Do you think that's possible?
As I said to you, nothing is impossible in life. If there is a will, there is a way. And that's what is needed. And that's what is needed. Even if the Palestinians and the Israelis, there is a challenge, we need the involvement of the international community based on fair intervention, based on the, because we want to have order in this world. We want, this order, because we live in a discordant world these days. So we want to resume trust in the international community. In order, the people in this world, they lost safety, security, trust. So we want to resume it. And that's the only way to start with the Palestinian-Israeli conflict based on the human rights conventions, the international resolutions, and to resume trust in the international institutions. Believe me, I see it.
Yes.
It can be quickly. If I ask you before, Yasser Arafat will meet with Rabin and to shake hands. 1 year before 94, are you crazy?
Yeah.
They will not.
Yeah.
And they met. They were calling Yasser Arafat as a terrorist, but then he became a hero. Nelson Mandela,
yes,
he was a terrorist,
yeah,
but he was from his side. He was a freedom fighter. And that's what we need. We need wisdom. We need the rational people. We need the involvement of the international community.
Doctor, we've run out of time on this interview, and I know you want to go and find out what's happening to your family right now. I would love to stay in touch with you. I would love you to come back on the show regularly and we talk about this, because you're such a powerful voice. Thank you for
Thank you
coming
so
in.
much, my dear.
And my heart goes out to you for what's happened to your family.
Thank you so much.
It really does. For all the family members you've lost.
Thank you. For all of the Palestinians and the Israelis.
Yes. You are an amazing voice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
A remarkable man, Dr. Izzaldeen Abu Leish.